Alright, today we're going to take a look at all the buffs and all of the bosses in the brand new solo raid event with Raven. This video is a little bit late just because the information I got was from a data miner and I just wanted to make sure that all of it was correct. And so far with tier 1 and tier 3 and tier 4 available, the information is correct. The only thing that's a little bit off is where the sub bosses are placed, but that's not a big deal at all. So we're just going to be mainly talking about the buffs of all the bosses, and I'm going to be telling you guys which ones are the most annoying ones. And spoiler alert, these bosses in this raid are very, very annoying. A lot of them are very, 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 very annoying. So just make sure that you're going to work on your teams. Make sure that you're going to be building your king, your heartbreaker, whoever you can pretty much, but mainly king, because you're going to really want to be taking away percentages of damage, because for a lot of these bosses, spoiler alert, you're not going to be able to do any crits. So yeah, that's going to be really fun. Anyways, with that being said, hope you guys have a good day, stay safe and stay clean, and let's start the video. A few days ago, we found out what the bosses were going to be for the brand new solo raid event with Raven. We didn't know what any of the buffs were going to be for the bosses, but now we do. There's 5 different tiers, and there's 5 different bosses in every single tier, just like every other solo raid. And once I finish talking about one tier, I will give you guys my opinions on which characters, or should I say which bosses, seem to be the most annoying. So starting off with tier 1, you have sub-boss Multiverse White Canary. She has damage reduction, power drain immunity, and disables gear bonuses from might and tech characters. The next boss is going to be Multiverse Black Lightning. He has damage reduction, he adds dot damage to the end of his special abilities, and he has increased dot damage as well. Moving on to the next boss, it's going to be Captain Cold. He has damage reduction, hazard effect multiplier, and splash damage. The next character is going to be sub-boss Green Arrow. He has crit and lethal immunity, damage reduction, and disables attack immunity. I'm assuming that means to say fast attack immunity. Anyways, the next character is going to be Boss Flash. He has additional block mitigation and damage reduction. So first of all, I finished talking about that first tier, so now let me give you guys my opinion. First of all, a lot of these bosses have a lot of damage reduction. I wonder if that really just means that these characters have a bunch of defense, which is what I'm assuming, because that's what a lot of characters in Rise of Krypton did. Definitely the most annoying boss out of all of this batch right here is going to be sub-boss Green Arrow. He's got crit and lethal immunity, which if you guys remember when I talked about this in my stream, I said that is the most annoying thing to deal with because you're not really going to be doing a lot of damage if you don't have any crit. No lethal is fine, I guess, but I really want to have my crit. So that's really, really unfortunate. And on top of that, he's got the damage reduction, and on top of that, he has disable attack immunity. But overall, this guy's going to be the worst, man. If it would have been Multiverse White Canary, that would have been fine, because that's the first boss, and she doesn't have that much health. But let's just be glad at least that buff is going to take effect in T1, which is the easiest tier. So with that being said, now let's move on to T2. This one is going to be, the first boss is going to be sub-boss Multiverse Batwoman. She has power drain chance, damage reduction, and power drain immunity. The next boss is going to be sub-boss Blue Beetle, and he has increased critical attack chance, increased critical attack damage, damage reduction, and increased fast attack chance. The next boss is going to be sub-boss Grid. He's got crit and lethal immunity, damage reduction, disable attack immunity, stun and freeze immunity. The next character is going to be sub-boss Multiverse Supergirl. She's got damage reduction, increased damage, increased power generation, and disable attack immunity. The next character is going to be, or should I say the next boss, is going to be Boss Nightwing, which has increased power generation, power bars add increased damage, and he also has damage reduction. So again, a lot of these bosses seem to have damage reduction. I don't know if that means it literally or with the defense. Again, I'm going to go with the defense. But either way, man, look at Grid. Grid is going to have crit and lethal immunity as well in T2. I really hope they didn't decide to do this for every single tier. For right now, I'm just going to stay a little positive and say that thankfully, this is only in Tier 1 and Tier 2. But something tells me this same buff is going to be applied to maybe tier 4 or tier 5, which would be the absolute worst. Anyways, moving on to the next batch of characters. In T3, we're going to have Sub-Boss Bane, which has additional block mitigation, damage reduction, and disable attack immunity. Moving on to the next boss, it's going to be Sub-Boss Catwoman, which has damage reduction, power drain immunity, splash damage, and players' heroes will randomly tag in. Moving on to the next boss, it's going to be Sub-Boss Deadshot, which applies dot on his critical attack hits and his increased crit chance and has damage reduction and increased dot damage. The next character is going to be Sub-Boss Scarecrow, which has damage reduction, disables special abilities, increased hazard effects, and disable healing. And the final boss is going to be Boss Cyborg, which has a damage cap, damage reduction, increased defense, increased power generation, and stun and freeze immunity. So in T3, the two main bosses that seem to be the most annoying is Catwoman and Cyborg. With Catwoman, you have to deal with the random tag in for the first couple of seconds in the battle if you want to kill off your teammates, which is what most people do, and that severely reduces the time that you have to be able to do a lot of damage, which is kind of bad. But at the same time, there's a lot of strategies out there with King of Atlantis Aquaman, with Black Manta. You can combo interrupt, so it can help you do a lot more damage and just kind of overcome the random tag-ins, which is good. But the main character that's going to be more annoying is going to be Cyborg. And even though Cyborg doesn't have random tag-in, and even though I hate random tag-in, this guy, he's got a lot more health than everybody else because he's the final boss in T3, and he's got a damage cap, which means you're not going to be able to do as much damage with King of Atlantis Aquaman. He also has damage reduction, which again, we're kind of trying to figure out what that is. I don't know if it's defense, but right in the bottom of that, it also says he's got increased defense, which is going to let you do even less damage. And he's got increased power generation, which means he's going to waste a lot of time using his special abilities, and you're going to have to wait for his special abilities animations to get over with. And on top of that, he's got stun and freeze immunity. So if you do not have Arkham Knight Batman, your Heartbreaker Harley Quinn is not going to work. I personally use Predator Batman because I do not have Arkham Knight Batman, so my Heartbreaker Harley Quinn is not going to work that good against Cyborg, and that's really, really unfortunate. So with that being said, those characters are definitely the most annoying ones. And now moving on to T4, the first boss is going to be Sub-Boss Atrocitus, which has power drain chance, damage reduction, permanent hazards, and remove special abilities. The next boss is going to be Sub-Boss Robin, which has increased crit chance, damage reduction, increased fast attack chance, and increased lethal attack chance. The next boss is going to be Sub-Boss Martian Manhunter, which has damage reduction, power bars add increased damage, he's got splash damage, and he also changes his class throughout the battle. The next boss is going to be Sub-Boss Power Girl, which has applied dot on crits, damage reduction, increased dot damage, and power drain immunity. And the final boss in T4 is going to be Boss Starfire, which has crit and lethal immunity, damage cap, damage reduction, disable attack immunity, increased dot damage, and power drain immunity. Okay, so at this point, I think you guys know what I'm about to say. The tier 4 most annoying character is going to be Starfire because of that critical attack immunity. So far, T3 is the only tier that doesn't have any boss with critical attack immunity, so that's going to be my favorite tier for sure. But back to T4, man, dude, Starfire is the final boss in that tier, and we're already in tier 4. So the amount of health she's going to have is going to be really high, man. And something tells me there's going to be a boss in T5 also that's got critical attack immunity. I don't know if I'm right, but I'm pretty sure I am. But so far, I am not happy with these bosses. We have 3 bosses already, man, with critical attack immunity. That's too much. That is way too much. I think in Dawn of Apocalypse, we have like 1 or something. And in Rise of Krypton, we have like 2. And we're not even done with the Raven Solar Raid bosses. And we already have 3, which is crazy. But anyways, now moving on to T5, the final tier, we have Sub-Boss Black Adam, which has damage reduction, increased defense, adds more damage with power bars, and has power drain immunity. The next boss is going to be Sub-Boss Dr. Fate. He adds dot damage at the end of his special abilities. He's got damage reduction, increased dot damage, and increased hazard damage. The next character is going to be Sub-Boss Enchantress. Increased damage, damage reduction, disable attack immunity, and disable special abilities. The next boss is going to be Boss Shazam, which has a damage cap, damage reduction, increased defense, and disables healing. And finally, the main boss of the event is going to be Raven, and of course, the first thing I'm looking at, which is her buff, is going to be crit and lethal immunity. I don't even want to read the rest about this character, but the next thing is damage cap, damage reduction, dot immunity, stun and freeze immunity as well. Oh boy. Oh man, dude. And she's got dot damage immunity as well, which means that the beta club is going to do jack against this boss as well. Oh man, dude. I would much rather fight Rise of Krypton Superman, to be honest, and I don't even like Rise of Krypton Superman. This boss is too much. I really hope that with the brand new artifacts that we're going to get, it's going to make this battle a little bit easier, but I don't know how they would do that because no crit, no dot damage, no lethal, damage cap as well. That's a big L. So unless the artifacts are a big W, this event is going to be basically a hell because T3 again is the only boss with no crit immunity. So that's good. Everything else is bad. Everything else is going to be red territory. It's going to be stuff that you do not want to fight. But anyways, with that being said, I hope you guys have a good day. I'm not having a good day after everything I just read, unfortunately. But either way, I'll see you guys later. Stay safe and stay clean, and take care. Thank you very much for watching.